12-year-old Emily Harper had always been clever, but today she needed more than cleverness. She needed acting. The crisp October morning light filtered softly into her room as she lay under her quilt, cheeks flushed with her mother's coral blush and a heating pad warming her neck. She had spent the previous night perfecting her fake fever routine. A cracked voice, a practiced cough, and just the right amount of weakness in her movements. When her mother, Sarah Harper, stepped into the doorway dressed for work, Emily delivered her line with perfect timing. "Mum, I have a fever. Can I stay home today?" Sarah, a meticulous accountant and a mother who always noticed the small things, approached with worry etched across her face. The thermometer beeped. 99.8 degree pass, just high enough to be believable. Sarah sighed, told her she could rest at home, and left for work with a tender kiss on her daughter's forehead. The moment the front door closed and her mother's car disappeared from the cul-de-sac, Emily sprang out of bed with a burst of excitement. The house was hers, a rare kingdom of silence and freedom. She made herself a chaotic breakfast of cereal, chocolate milk, and leftover pizza, built a pillow fort in the living room, and blasted music she wasn't allowed to play before school. It was perfect. For the first couple of hours, Emily revelled in the thrill of playing hooky, completely unaware that by noon she would witness something in her own home that would flip her world upside down. Emily wandered through the quiet house, the soft hum of the refrigerator the only sound breaking the stillness. The thrill of freedom was beginning to fade, replaced by an odd, prickling sense of curiosity she couldn't quite ignore. She drifted back toward the living room, intending to rebuild her pillow fort, when a faint, metallic click echoed through the hallway. She froze. It sounded like the front door, but her mother wasn't supposed to return for hours. Heart-pounding, Emily tiptoed toward her bedroom and peeked through the cracked door, barely daring to breathe. The front door opened slowly, and a slim figure stepped inside. Not her mother, her aunt, Melissa. She wasn't supposed to be here. Melissa lived 30 minutes away and rarely visited without calling first. Emily's confusion deepened as she watched her aunt shut the door quietly and glance around the house like someone who didn't want to be seen. Her movements were sharp, hurried, almost rehearsed. Emily pulled back into her room, careful not to make the floor creak. She held her breath, listening intently to the sound of Melissa's heels tapping lightly across the hardwood. Moments later, curiosity overcame fear. Emily slid to the edge of the doorway and peered down the hall. She watched Melissa walk directly toward her mother's coat hanging on the hallway hook. There was no hesitation, not even a moment of doubt. With quick fingers, Melissa slipped her hand into her handbag and pulled out something Emily couldn't fully see. The girl leaned forward, squinting, trying to make out the object. It was small, dark, and wrapped in a thin plastic bag. Before Emily could blink, Melissa tucked it deep inside Sarah's coat pocket. Emily's stomach twisted. This wasn't the behaviour of someone dropping off a forgotten lipstick or a surprise gift. Melissa's expression wasn't warm or cheerful. It was cold, tense. She looked over her shoulder twice, making sure no one was watching. Then she pulled out her phone and turned her back to the hallway. Emily took another careful step forward. Her aunt's words floated through the air, clear enough for Emily to hear every syllable. "I took care of everything," Melissa whispered sharply. "You can call the police tonight. That fool won't suspect a thing." Emily slapped a hand over her mouth, terrified the gasp she nearly let out would betray her. Police? Tonight? Her mum? None of it made sense. She felt her heartbeat in her throat as she tried to understand what she had just witnessed. Why would her aunt plant something in her mother's coat? Why would she talk about calling the police? And who was she talking to? Melissa hung up quickly, her face hard and emotionless. She didn't look like the aunt who brought birthday gifts or baked cookies on holidays. She looked like a stranger, a dangerous stranger. She slipped out the door as quietly as she had come, leaving behind a silence so heavy it felt suffocating. Emily stayed frozen for nearly a full minute, unable to move. Her thoughts raced in frantic circles. Should she check the coat? Should she call her mum? Should she pretend none of this happened? Every option felt terrifying. But one thing was certain. The freedom she had craved that morning was gone, replaced by a fear she'd never experienced before. Something was wrong, very wrong, and she was now the only one who knew. Emily froze in place, half hidden behind the hallway wall, as the front door clicked again. Soft, careful, nothing like the confident slam her mother made every morning. A prickle crawled up her spine. No one was supposed to be home. She held her breath, every sense sharpening as quiet footsteps entered the house. Not her mother, not her father. These steps were too light, too sneaky. Emily crept forward until she had the perfect view of the entryway, just enough to see the silhouette of her aunt, Aunt Valerie, closing the front door with practiced silence. Emily's eyebrows shot up. Why was she here? And why did she lock the door behind her like she didn't want to be caught? Aunt Valerie didn't remove her shoes, didn't call out a greeting, didn't even glance toward the hallway. She walked straight to the coat rack, straight to her mother's belongings, with the precision of someone who already knew exactly what she wanted. Emily's pulse quickened. She pressed her hand against her chest to calm her, breathing, but her heart hammered loud enough she was terrified it would echo across the room. Valerie took a quick look around the house, scanning the walls, the floor, the corners, as if checking for witnesses. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out something small wrapped in tissue paper, and slipped it inside Sarah Harper's work coat. Emily's stomach turned. The action was too deliberate, too suspicious. Aunt Valerie smoothed the coat, patted the pocket twice, and whispered something under her breath that Emily couldn't hear. It felt like watching a stranger, not the aunt who brought her birthday presents or made jokes at family dinners. This version of her aunt moved like someone plotting a crime. Then Valerie's phone rang. She answered in a hushed voice, pacing slowly across the tiles. "Yeah," she said. "It's done. I put it in her coat. Yes, tonight. Call the police tonight. Trust me, she'll never see this coming. She's too naive. This will finally settle everything." Emily's breath caught in her throat. Police? Tonight? Something planted in her mum's coat? Her mind spun with fear, confusion, and a rising sense of danger. She backed away from the hallway, her hand shaking as it slid along the wall to steady herself. She didn't dare make a sound until Valerie finished her call, double-checked the coat again, then left the house as quietly as she had entered. The moment the door clicked shut, Emily stumbled into her room and closed it softly, fighting the urge to cry. Her fake sick day wasn't fun anymore. It wasn't freedom. It was a trap she had accidentally stumbled into, one that now wrapped around her family like invisible wires, pulling tighter by the minute. She sat on the edge of her bed, clutching her knees to her chest, replaying the scene in her mind. Valerie's voice, her confidence, her sinister calm, and the terrifying certainty that whatever she planted in that coat, it wasn't something harmless. Emily whispered to herself, "Mum's in danger." And for the first time that day, she wished she really had a fever, because anything would have been better than the chilling truth she just witnessed. Emily froze behind the corner of the hallway, her heartbeat pounding so violently she feared the sound alone would give her away. The house, once her playground of quiet mischief, now felt like a maze of shadows and dangerous secrets. Her aunt's words replayed in her mind over and over like a haunting echo. "You can call the police tonight. That fool won't suspect a thing. A chill crept down her spine, colder than the autumn wind outside. Why would Aunt Valerie, family, trusted, loved, want the police to show up because of her mother? What could she possibly have slipped into the coat? Emily pressed her back against the wall, her breath trembling. She needed answers, but every possible truth felt terrifying. She waited until minutes passed, long, heavy minutes, before, finally, stepping out. She tiptoed toward the coat rack where her mother's navy trench coat hung neatly, unaware it had become a trap. Emily lifted it slowly, her fingers shaking. The weight of the coat felt wrong. There was something inside the left pocket. She swallowed hard. Just as she reached into the pocket, she heard a sudden creak. Footsteps. The house was silent again. Her own heartbeat was the only sound she could hear. She pulled her hand back instantly, fear clamping tightly around her chest. What if she touched something dangerous? What if the police came and blamed her mother? Or worse, what if they found something truly illegal? Her mind spun with every awful possibility. She remembered the documentary she watched earlier, people being framed, traps set in silence, families torn apart because of lies whispered behind closed doors. Was her aunt doing the same? And why now? Emily forced herself to breathe. She needed proof. She needed to know the truth before anything happened to her mother. She took one step back, then another, until she reached her room. Her legs felt weak. She shut the door quietly, turned the lock, and leaned her forehead against the wood. For the first time since the morning, she wished she had never faked being sick. She wished she were in school, safe, surrounded by noise and friends instead of loneliness and secrets. After a moment, she pressed her ear to the door, listening for anything unusual. Silence. The house seemed to be holding its breath along with her. She moved quickly to her bed, grabbing her phone. Her hands trembled so much she almost dropped it. Should she call her mum? Should she tell her everything? But what if the phone call was overheard? What if her aunt came back? What if she made things worse? Every choice felt dangerous. She stood up, pacing, whispers of panic swirling around her. Then she remembered something. The home security camera in the hallway. A small, blinking red light she had ignored her entire life. Her mum installed it months ago. If her aunt placed something in the coat, the camera would have captured it. Proof, evidence, the truth. Emily's pulse quickened. She hurried to the living room where the security monitor was kept inside a small wooden cabinet. She knelt down and opened it with careful fingers. The screen lit up. Rows of recordings. Hallway camera, time stamped. She clicked on the one from a few hours earlier. The video played, and instantly her entire world shattered. There was her aunt, moving quickly, checking the door, glancing over her shoulder, then reaching into her bag and slipping something shiny, very shiny, into her mother's coat pocket. Not money, not a note, something else. Something that gleamed coldly under the hallway lights. Emily's breath caught in her throat as the camera zoomed enough to reveal what it was, and it was worse than she ever imagined. Emily's mind raced as she crouched in the shadows of the hallway, her breathing shallow, her heart pounding loud enough that she feared someone might hear it. Every minute since discovering the diamonds had twisted the world she knew into something darker, sharper, and terrifyingly real. She'd expected the day to be fun. Movies, snacks, maybe sneaking a cookie or two. Not this. Not the kind of secret that could destroy her family. She stood frozen as she heard the front door unlock for the second time. The slow, deliberate turn of that key sent a pulse of dread through her entire body. Her aunt was back. Emily darted silently behind the coat rack, pressing herself against the wall. She peeked through the narrow gap between hanging jackets. Her aunt, Melissa, stepped inside with a chilly expression. like someone rehearsing a story she planned to tell the police. Melissa looked around the house with a smirk, as if she owned it. The confidence in her gait made Emily's stomach knot. This wasn't someone making a mistake. This was someone executing a plan. Melissa pulled out her phone and began speaking in a low, calculated voice. Yes, it's still in the coat. She'll be arrested by tonight. Don't worry. I'll act surprised. She's always had good luck. It's time it ran out. She laughed softly. A laugh with no warmth. A laugh that made the hair on Emily's arms rise. Emily clapped a hand over her mouth, fighting the urge to gasp. The truth hit her with the force of a collapsing building. Her aunt was framing her mother. When Melissa hung up, she moved towards Sarah's coat again, adjusting the collar, making sure the planted item stayed hidden. Emily squinted, trying to understand what it was stuffed inside the pocket. Diamonds? Money? A device? Whatever it wasn't small. And it wasn't innocent. Melissa stepped toward the kitchen next, opening drawers, touching surfaces, leaving fingerprints everywhere. She wanted the scene to look chaotic, to look like Sarah had been up to something illegal. Emily's legs trembled as she slowly backed away from the coat rack. Her mind screamed, "Do something. Now." But what could a 12-year-old do? If she confronted her aunt, she'd be brushed off or worse. If she called her mom, she'd panic and rush home, straight into a trap. If she called the police, she wouldn't be able to explain any of this without proof. And Melissa was smart. Too smart. Then it hit her. The phone. Emily tiptoed back into the living room, inch by inch, staying low behind furniture until she reached the couch. Her hands shook as she grabbed her tablet and opened the camera. Her aunt was still in the kitchen, rummaging through cupboards. Emily peeked around the corner, zoomed the lens, and recorded silently. She captured Melissa slipping another small bag into Sarah's purse. She captured her whispering into her phone. She captured her looking at the coat pocket with a satisfied, sinister smile. Evidence? Real evidence? Emily felt a surge of adrenaline. She had something powerful now. But then her aunt's footsteps grew closer. Too close. Emily ducked behind the sofa, clenching the tablet to her chest as Melissa walked into the living room. Her eyes scanned the room suspiciously, almost as if she sensed she wasn't alone. Emily held her breath so tightly that her chest hurt. After a tense moment, Melissa turned away, muttering, "Everything is perfect. She won't escape this." When the door finally closed and silence returned, Emily exhaled shakily. She bolted from her hiding spot and sprinted to the coat. Her hands trembled as she reached into the pocket and pulled out the object Melissa had planted. Her eyes widened. It wasn't jewelry. It wasn't money. It was a small velvet pouch filled with uncut diamonds, illegal ones, the kind used in criminal investigations, the kind that could send someone to prison for years. Her mother was innocent. Her aunt wanted her gone. Emily felt her throat tighten. She didn't know why Melissa was doing this, but she knew one thing. She had to save her mother, no matter what it took. With trembling resolve, Emily placed the pouch on the kitchen table and stared at it, knowing her next decision would change everything. Emily felt as if the walls of the house were breathing with her, expanding, tightening, pressing in. Every sound became sharper, more dangerous. The refrigerator hummed like a distant warning. The clock on the wall ticked like a countdown. And inside her chest, her heartbeat thudded so hard it felt like it might echo through the floorboards. She kept replaying the aunt's words in her mind. "I took care of everything. You can call the police tonight. She won't suspect a thing." Each sentence sliced deeper, filling her with a fear she had never felt before. Fear not for herself, but for her mother. Her kind, overworked, gentle mother who believed in fairness and honesty more than anything else. A mother who didn't deserve to be betrayed by her own sister. Emily stood at the coat rack again, staring at the dark blue coat hanging innocently, almost mockingly. Her fingers hovered over the pocket where the aunt had slipped the mysterious object. It felt like a trap waiting to spring the moment she touched it. She didn't know what her aunt had planted. Drugs? Stolen jewellery? A weapon? Something that could ruin Sarah's job, reputation, or entire life? Emily took a step back. No. I need a plan first. For the first time, the 12-year-old realised she couldn't act like a child today. She needed to think like an adult. No, smarter than an adult. Smarter than her aunt. She paced the living room, clutching her hands together as her mind raced. Her first thought was to call her mother, but that would only worry Sarah while she was at work. Worse, if the aunt was watching or listening somehow, she might speed up whatever she had planned. Her second thought was to take the mystery item out of the coat pocket altogether and throw it away. But then, her aunt would know someone interfered. And if the police showed up with no evidence in the coat, the aunt might plant something even worse next time. Something Emily couldn't stop. No, she needed to expose the aunt, not just stop her. Then an idea sparked. Small at first, but quickly burning bright. Her tablet. It had a camera, a good one. And more importantly, it had cloud backup. If she caught the aunt on video returning to the house, messing with anything, threatening her mum, anything at all, it would save them. And even if the aunt tried to delete it, the footage would already be safely uploaded. Emily wiped her palms on her pyjama pants, forcing herself to breathe calmly. She grabbed the tablet from her room, positioned it just behind a stack of decorative books on the living room shelf, and angled the camera toward the front door and coat rack. She tested it twice, adjusting the angle until everything was perfectly framed. Now she needed a reason to be out of sight, but not too far. Her bedroom was perfect, close enough to hear anything happening, far enough to not be seen. Before returning to her room, Emily whispered to the tablet like it was a teammate in a dangerous mission. "Please, work. Please, catch her." She crept back into her room and sat on the floor beside her bed, hugging her knees. Minutes stretched into hours. She could hear the wind outside, rattling tree branches against the window like bony fingers. Every car that slowed near the house made her breath hitch. Every creak of the floor made her flinch. Was the aunt going to return? Or would the real danger come later tonight when the police arrived? More terrifyingly, what if the aunt's plan was even bigger than Emily imagined? By 3 p.m, Emily's nerves felt like frayed wires sparking in every direction. She tiptoed back to the hallway for water, and froze. A soft metallic click echoed through the house. Someone was unlocking the front door. Emily's heart slammed against her ribs. Her throat closed. She ducked behind the corner, barely breathing. The door opened. Slowly. A silhouette stepped inside. Not her mother. Not her father. It was the aunt. Her voice drifted inside, cold, smooth, careful. "Just need to make sure everything is exactly where it should be." Emily's stomach dropped. The plan was already working. The tablet was recording. And the aunt was walking right into her own trap. Emily pressed a hand to her mouth to stop herself from gasping. She watched, trembling, as her aunt moved to the coat rack, reached into her purse, and pulled out another small object. Another thing she intended to plant. Emily's blood ran cold. Her aunt wasn't finishing something, she was escalating it. And this time, there was no mistaking it. Her aunt was planning to destroy her mother completely. Emily didn't know how or why, but she knew one thing for certain. If she didn't act soon, tonight wouldn't just bring police. It would bring the end of her mother's freedom. And Emily was the only one who could stop it. Emily sat in the back of the living room, knees pressed tightly to her chest, as two police officers questioned her mother. The house that always smelled like lavender candles now felt sharp, cold, and full of shadows she had never noticed before. Sarah Harper kept her hands folded on her lap, knuckles white, eyes glassy but focused. She looked calm, but Emily knew that inside, her mother was breaking apart piece by piece. Officer Daniels spoke first. "Ma'am, your sister claims you stole a diamond bracelet from her home last week. She said she found evidence in your coat." Emily felt a sting of fear race up her spine. There it was, the trap the aunt had planned. Sarah's voice wavered only slightly. "That's impossible. I wasn't even near her house." Emily swallowed hard. This was her moment, the moment she either stayed silent or saved her mother. She stepped forward before her courage could disappear. "Mum didn't do anything." Her voice was tiny, but it was enough to make everyone turn. Emily took a shaky breath. "I saw Aunt Clara come into the house today. When you were at work, she put something in your coat pocket." Sarah's head snapped toward her. "Emily, what are you talking about?" Tears spilled down Emily's cheeks. "I lied about being sick. I stayed home. I saw everything." The room froze. Officer Daniels moved closer. "Are you saying your aunt planted evidence?" Emily nodded rapidly. "Yes. She said someone should call the police tonight, that you wouldn't suspect anything." Sarah covered her mouth with both hands, her breath breaking. Officer Daniels looked at his partner, then reached into Sarah's coat and pulled out the small velvet pouch. The evidence. Inside was the diamond bracelet. But now, the truth suddenly looked different. "We'll need to speak with your aunt again," the officer said sternly. "This looks like a staged setup." Relief crashed through Sarah so hard she had to grab the arm of the sofa to stay steady. She pulled Emily into her arms, trembling. "You saved me," Sarah whispered, voice cracking. "You saved us both." Emily buried her face in her mother's shoulder, guilt and pride mixing in a way she didn't know how to describe. For the first time, the little girl who faked sickness to escape school felt something new. The weight of a truth that mattered, the power of courage spoken at the right moment, and the realization that sometimes being brave means confessing the things you hid. As the officers left to confront Aunt Clara, Sarah held Emily close and whispered, "No more secrets, not from each other." And Emily nodded, knowing this time it wasn't a performance. It was real. It was everything.